The 7 elders of the Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. Elder Quan's luminous form dimmed with exhaustion. The great chamber, built from crystal and starlight, felt colder than usual. "The Void Devourer has consumed the Proxima system," Quan said, his voice echoing. "That makes 17 worlds lost this cycle. Our combined fleets have failed. Our most powerful weapons are useless against it." Images floated in the center of their circle, planets being torn apart, stars collapsing. Billions of lives extinguished in moments. The elders had lived for thousands of years, but none had witnessed destruction on this scale before. Elder Bin, whose body resembled flowing water contained in a humanoid shape, rippled with distress. The Archean defense grid fell in hours. Their technology was among the most advanced in the known galaxy. The Mavor tried to evacuate their colony worlds, added Elder Som, whose gaseous form glowed deep purple today, reflecting his mood. The Devourer changed course and hunted them down. It shows intelligence, purpose. Elder Tay, the youngest of the council at merely 800 years old, projected a series of calculations into the shared mental space. At its current rate of consumption and growth, it will reach the core worlds in 63 days. Nothing in our combined arsenals can stop it. The elders had been revered as gods by countless civilizations throughout the millennia. Their powers were vast, their knowledge nearly limitless. Yet now they felt helpless. Fear, an emotion many of them had forgotten, crept back into their ancient minds. Elder Ju, the oldest among them at over 12,000 years, raised her crystalline hand. Light refracted through her fingers, casting rainbows across the chamber. "There is one option we have not considered." The chamber fell silent. Every elder knew what she meant. "No," Elder Tay whispered. "Not them. Any species but them." Elder Ju's form pulsed with determination. "Look at what we face." She expanded the images of destruction. 17 worlds gone, trillions dead. Our powers mean nothing against this threat. "We swore to maintain the quarantine," Elder Sung added. His body of living metal shimmered with tension. "We have seen what they are capable of. Their wars, their weapons, their stubbornness." "Yes," Elder Ju agreed. "That is exactly why we need them now." Elder Quan moved forward. "The quarantine has stood for 800 years. We agreed it was necessary for the safety of all." "For the safety of ourselves, you mean?" Elder Ju corrected. "We feared them because they are unpredictable, because they think differently." Elder Bin's watery form bubbled with agitation. "They went from primitive tool use to splitting the atom in less than 10,000 years. Their evolution is too rapid, their aggression too ingrained. And they've nearly destroyed their own world multiple times," added Elder Som. Elder Ju projected her own images now. "Humans building, creating, surviving against impossible odds. Yes, they fight. Yes, they destroy. But they also adapt faster than any species we have encountered. They solve problems in ways we cannot imagine." "They are dangerous," Elder Tay insisted. "So is the Void Devourer," Elder Ju countered. "But the humans might actually have a chance against it." Elder Sung's metallic features hardened. "If we give them access to galactic technology, they may become an even greater threat than the Devourer. If we do nothing, there will be no galaxy left to protect," Elder Ju said simply. The council chamber fell silent again. The images of destruction continued to play before them, a grim reminder of their failure. "We need to vote," Elder Quan finally said. "The laws of the council are clear. One by one, the elders cast their votes. Elder Ju, Elder Quan, and Elder Som voted to break the quarantine. Elder Bin, Elder Tay, and Elder Sung voted to maintain." It all eyes turned to Elder Rin, who had remained silent throughout the debate. Her form, composed of pure energy contained within a thin shell, pulsed slowly as she considered. "I have watched the humans since we established the quarantine," she said finally. "They are violent, yes. Unpredictable, certainly. But they possess something none of us do. They do not accept defeat. Even when logic dictates they should surrender, they fight on." She paused, her light dimming slightly. "We call ourselves gods, yet we are about to be defeated. Perhaps it is time to call upon those who do not fear gods or death." Elder Rin's light flared brightly. I vote we break the quarantine. We are out of options, out of time. We must call upon the humans. The decision was made. The quarantine that had stood for 800 years would be broken. The fate of the galaxy would rest in the hands of the one species that terrified the gods. Captain Minho Park crouched behind the concrete barrier, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The alien craft sat in the center of Seoul's Olympic Stadium like a giant silver egg. It had appeared 3 hours ago, simply fading into existence without sound or warning. "Anything?" General Yoon asked, his voice tense. "No movement, sir," Minho replied. "It's just sitting there." Military vehicles surrounded the stadium. Soldiers with weapons ready formed a tight perimeter. News helicopters hovered at a safe distance, broadcasting the scene to a frightened world. Minho's radio crackled. "All units maintain position. Do not engage unless attacked." Lieutenant Nari Kim crawled up beside him. Her face was pale but determined. "Sir, the science team reports no radiation or biological hazards. Whatever that thing is, it's not immediately dangerous." Minho nodded but kept his eyes on the craft. Something about its surface bothered him. It seemed to shift slightly, like water reflecting light, even though it was clearly solid. "Sir," Nari suddenly grabbed his arm. "The object is opening." A seam appeared in the silver surface. It widened smoothly, revealing a bright light from within. A ramp extended downward, touching the grass of the stadium field. "Hold positions," General Yoon ordered through the radio. "All snipers stand ready." 3 figures appeared at the top of the ramp. They descended slowly, moving with a strange grace that seemed almost unnatural. Minho adjusted his binoculars. "What the hell?" he whispered. The beings were humanoid, but clearly not human. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies slender and elegant. Their skin, if it could be called skin, seemed to glow from within, shifting colors like the northern lights. They wore no visible clothing or equipment. "Are you seeing this?" Nari asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before Minho could answer, a voice filled the stadium. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, perfectly clear despite the distance. "People of Earth," the central figure said, "I am Elder Kwan of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and with great urgency." General Yoon grabbed his radio. "Who's broadcasting? That's not coming through our speakers." "No broadcast, sir," came the confused reply. "They're somehow projecting directly." The glowing being continued. "We seek an audience with your leaders. The matter concerns the survival of all sentient life in this galaxy, including yours." Within 30 minutes, the stadium became the center of the most important gathering in human history. The president arrived with her security team. Representatives from other nations joined through emergency video links. Media outlets worldwide broadcast the scene. Minho found himself assigned to the security detail near the aliens. Up close, they were even stranger. Their bodies seemed partially solid and partially made of light. They had recognizable faces with eyes, noses, and mouths, but everything about them seemed slightly wrong. Too perfect, too symmetrical. "I understand your caution," Elder Kwan was saying to the assembled human leaders. "You have no reason to trust us. Indeed, you had no knowledge of our existence until today. You claim to represent a galactic council," the president said. "What exactly is this council?" "We are the eldest species in the galaxy," another being, introduced as Elder Ju, explained. "We have watched over younger civilizations for millennia. Some primitive worlds came to worship us as gods." The third alien, Elder Rin, stepped forward. "We must be direct. Earth has been under quarantine for 800 years. We have prevented your species from discovering faster-than-light travel and blocked alien contact with your world." A shocked murmur ran through the human delegation. "Quarantined? Why?" the president demanded. "Because you terrified us," Elder Kwan said simply. The stadium fell silent. "Your species evolves too quickly, adapts too readily, thinks in ways that defy prediction," Elder Ju explained. "We watched you advance from simple tools to nuclear weapons in an eye blink of cosmic time. We observed your wars, your stubborn refusal to surrender even when defeat is certain. We deemed humanity too dangerous to join galactic society," Elder Rin added. Minho felt anger rising in his chest. These beings had kept humanity trapped on Earth, preventing their expansion to the stars. For centuries they had been humanity's jailers. "If you fear us so much," the president asked, her voice cold, "why are you here now?" Elder Quan's form dimmed slightly. "Because something far worse than humanity threatens all life in the galaxy. We call it the Void Devourer. It consumes entire star systems, growing stronger with each world it takes." Images suddenly appeared in the air above them, planets being torn apart, stars collapsing into darkness. "Our combined forces have failed to stop it," Elder Ju said. 17 worlds have already been lost, trillions dead." "We need a solution we cannot imagine," Elder Rin said. "We need a species that does not think as we do. A species that does not accept defeat." Elder Quan looked directly at the president. "The gods of the galaxy are afraid, and you, the species we feared enough to imprison, are our last hope." Minho gripped his weapon tighter. The irony wasn't lost on him. For centuries, these beings had contained humanity like a dangerous animal. Now they were opening the cage, not out of fairness or regret, but because they needed the animal to fight for them. The president's face showed the same realization. "And if we refuse to help, then we all perish together," Elder Quan said simply. "The Void Devourer will reach Earth within 3 months." The metal doors slid open as Captain Minho Park entered the briefing room of the newly formed United Nations Space Command. Just 2 weeks ago, the room had been an ordinary conference center. Now it buzzed with activity as Earth's greatest minds worked to save the galaxy. Screens covered the walls, showing data streams, simulations, and images of the Void Devourer. The sight still made Minho's stomach turn, a massive darkness that seemed to bend light around it, with tendrils that reached out to tear apart worlds. General Junho Lee stood at the center table, his face grim as he studied the holographic display. Military officers from a dozen nations surrounded him. Dr. Hyun, who had been the first human scientist to understand the alien technology provided by the Council, pointed at the simulation. "We've analyzed all the data the Council provided," she said. "This entity feeds on energy. Any energy, thermal, nuclear, gravitational. Conventional weapons only make it stronger." "So firing at it is useless," General Lee muttered. "The Council's most powerful weapons did nothing." "Worse than nothing," Elder Quan said from his position near the wall. The alien's luminous form seemed dimmer in the bright lights of the human facility. "They accelerated its growth. We lost 3 fleets learning this lesson." Elder Ju stood beside him, her crystalline form refracting the light. "We have tried containment fields, dimensional barriers, even attempting to lure it into a black hole. Nothing works." Minho listened quietly. For the past 2 weeks, he had served as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, chosen because he had been among the first to make contact with the aliens. He had spent hours studying the Council's records, learning about a galaxy he never knew existed. "What about biological weapons?" asked a general from Russia. "It has no biology as we understand it," Dr. Hyun replied. "It's more like a complex energy pattern than a living thing." "Can we evacuate Earth?" someone else asked. Elder Quan shook his head. "Even with our fastest ships, we could only evacuate a few million humans, and there is nowhere in the galaxy that will remain safe if the Devourer continues unchecked." The room fell into frustrated silence. Minho continued to stare at the hologram, watching how the simulated Void Devourer moved, how it reached out with those strange tendrils to pull energy from a star. "It feeds on energy," he said slowly. All eyes turned to him. "Then we don't use conventional weapons against it. We use its hunger against it." Elder Quan's face showed confusion, an oddly human expression on his alien features. "Explain." Minho stepped forward and manipulated the hologram. "Look at how it consumes. It draws energy in through these tendrils, processes it here at what seems to be its core, then uses that energy to grow new tendrils." He turned to Dr. Hyun. "Is there any limit to how much it can consume at once?" Dr. Hyun frowned. "The Council's data doesn't indicate one, but logically, any system must have limits." "We create a feedback loop," Minho said, his mind racing now. "It feeds on energy. Let's give it more than it can handle." He adjusted the hologram again, sketching a rough plan. We build special energy cores, powerful but unstable. We let it consume some of them, establishing a feeding pattern. Then we hit it with everything at once, overloading its ability to process the energy. General Lee leaned forward. Like feeding someone until they burst? More like tricking it into a self-destructive cycle, Minho explained. These cores would be designed to interact with each other once inside the entity, creating a cascade effect. Dr. Hyun's eyes widened. We could use the Council's phase technology to make the cores resonate with each other at increasing frequencies. The energy wouldn't just increase, it would multiply exponentially, another scientist added, excitement building in his voice. And if we position the cores correctly, Minho continued, we force the energy to flow back into itself instead of outward. It would be consuming its own structure. The human scientists and military personnel began talking rapidly, building on the idea, refining it. Elder Kwan and Elder Ju stood silently, watching. General Lee raised his hand for quiet. The question is, can we build these cores with the technology we have? Not with Earth technology, Dr. Hyun admitted, but with what the Council has provided. She looked at the aliens. Elder Kwan seemed hesitant. What you propose has never been attempted. The phase technology was developed for communication, not as a weapon. That's why it might work, Minho said. The Devourer has encountered your weapons before. It knows how to counter them, but this approach, using its own nature against it, is something new. It would require perfect timing, General Lee noted. Each core would need to be placed precisely. And the ships delivering them would be at extreme risk, added another officer. Suicide missions, someone muttered. Minho nodded, grimly. Possibly, but what's the alternative? The room fell silent again. The hologram of the Void Devourer continued its endless consumption of simulated worlds. How many cores would we need? General Lee finally asked. Dr. Hyun performed some quick calculations. Based on its current size, at least 7, positioned. Here, here, and here. She marked points on the hologram. 7 ships then, Minho said. 7 crews willing to get close enough to place the cores. I will authorize it, General Lee said after a moment. We'll need volunteers. You'll have them, Minho said confidently. Every pilot on Earth will volunteer when they understand what's at stake. As the meeting broke into working groups, Elder Ju approached Minho. Her crystalline form glittered under the lights. Your plan is audacious, she said quietly. Borderline suicidal. The Council has existed for thousands of years, yet we never considered such an approach, deliberately feeding the horror to trigger its own destruction. She studied him with eyes that seemed to see too much. This is why we feared you, Elder Ju whispered. This is exactly why. Minho met her gaze steadily. Fear is useful when it warns of danger. But sometimes, Elder Ju, the most dangerous solution is the only one that works. Captain Nari Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiance, her hands gripping the command rail tightly. Through the main viewport, she could see the Void Devourer, a massive darkness that seemed to bend the light of the stars around it. Even from this distance, it made her feel small and afraid. The Defiance led a fleet of 7 ships, each carrying one of the special energy cores designed by Earth scientists. These vessels had been built in just 3 weeks, using technology the Galactic Council had never intended for warfare. Status report, Nari ordered, keeping her voice steady for the crew. All systems nominal, Lieutenant Jiho responded from the operations console. The other 6 ships report ready. We are at safe observation distance. Communications from all vessels are clear, added Communications Officer Yeona. The Council observation ship is maintaining position behind us. Tactical Officer Do-hyun looked up from his console. The Devourer continues to consume the outer planets of the Centauri system. Current calculations show it will reach the inhabited worlds in 14 hours. Nari nodded. The timing was tight, too tight, but they had no choice. Put me through to the fleet, she said. Yona pressed several controls. Channel open, Captain. Nari took a deep breath. This is Captain Kim. We've trained for this mission for weeks, but nothing can truly prepare us for what we're about to face. The Void Devourer has destroyed 17 star systems and killed trillions of beings. It has defeated the most powerful forces in the galaxy. She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. They were scared but determined, but they didn't have what we have, the ability to think beyond conventional warfare. Today, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world in this galaxy. Remember your training, follow the plan, trust each other. She straightened her shoulders. All ships prepare the bait. Phase 1 begins now. The 7 ships moved forward, approaching the massive entity from different vectors. The Defiance led the way, its engines pushing to maximum speed. On the tactical display, Nari could see the first energy core being deployed from the ship named Courage. It glowed bright blue against the darkness of space. Core 1 away, Do-hyun reported. Energy signature strong and clean. One by one, the other ships deployed their initial cores, small versions designed to attract the Devourer's attention. The cores floated in space, pulsing with energy. For a moment, nothing happened. The Void Devourer continued its consumption of a distant planet, seemingly unaware of the tiny human fleet. Then, suddenly, it moved. A tendril of darkness stretched out from its mass, reaching toward the nearest energy core. Movement detected, Do-hyun called out. It's responding exactly as predicted. It's taking the bait. The bridge crew watched in horrified fascination as the tendril wrapped around the energy core. The core glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed as its energy was, absorbed into the darkness. Core 1 consumed, Do-hyun reported. Energy patterns remain stable. More tendrils reached out, seeking the other cores. One by one, they were consumed. All initial cores have been taken, Yona announced. The Devourer's patterns are changing. It's turning toward us. Nari gripped the rail tighter. This was the most dangerous part of the plan. All ships begin Phase 2. Deploy main cores on my mark. The 7 ships moved into their calculated positions, forming a precise geometric pattern around the Void Devourer. Each vessel now carried its main energy core, a device containing power equivalent to a small star, but engineered to interact with the others in very specific ways. The Devourer is accelerating toward us, Do-hyun warned. Time to intercept. 3 minutes. Hold positions, Nari ordered. We need perfect placement. Tendrils of darkness reached out toward the ships. The bridge of the Defiance warning alarms began to sound. Energy drain detected, Lieutenant Jiho called out. It's trying to pull power from our engines. Reroute emergency power to shields, Nari commanded. All ships, stand by. She watched the tactical display, waiting for the exact moment when all 7 ships would be in position. The Void Devourer continued to approach, its mass seeming to grow larger with each passing second. Now, Nari commanded. 7 energy cores launched simultaneously, each on a carefully calculated trajectory. They glowed with blinding intensity. As they flew through space, cores away, Do-hyun confirmed, all ships full reverse thrust. The human vessels pulled back as the Void Devourer reached out with dozens of tendrils, grabbing all 7 cores at once. It's taking them all, Jiho reported. Energy absorption rates are off the charts. All ships, clear the zone, Nari ordered. Maximum speed. The human fleet retreated as the cores began to pulse in a synchronized pattern. Inside the Void Devourer, they were creating resonance waves, forcing energy to flow in unnatural patterns. The cores are active, Do-hyun reported, excitement in his voice. They're creating the feedback loop. It's working. On the main viewport, Nari could see the Void Devourer changing. Its edges became less defined. Points of light appeared within its darkness. Energy readings are fluctuating wildly, Jiho called. Out. The internal structure is destabilizing. The entity seemed to writhe in space, its tendrils thrashing. Bright lines of energy began to crack across its surface like lightning. The trap closed, Yona whispered. It worked. The Void Devourer, gorged on the carefully calibrated energy sources, began to collapse in on itself. The contradictory energy, patterns the humans had designed, were tearing it apart from within. A shockwave of energy burst outward. The bridge of the Defiance shook violently. Brace for impact, Nari shouted. The wave hit them, sending the ship tumbling through space. Emergency systems blared warnings as Nari held onto the command rail for dear life. When the ship stabilized, she looked up at the viewport. Where the Void Devourer had been, there was now only scattered points of light, rapidly fading. Status. Of the entity? She demanded. Do-Hyun worked his controls frantically. Readings show it are nothing, Captain. No coherent structure remains. The Void Devourer has been completely destabilized. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. Nari allowed herself a small smile of relief. Status of our fleet? She asked. The Hope. And the Courage took heavy damage but report all crew alive, Yona answered. The other ships report minor damage only. We did it, Captain. We actually did it. Open a channel to the Council observation ship, Nari ordered. The main screen showed Elder Kwan's luminous face. For once, the ancient being looked genuinely shocked. Impossible, he said simply. You destroyed it, Nari nodded. We did exactly what we said we would do. The threat is over. How? Elder Kwan asked. Our greatest weapons failed. Our most powerful spells and technologies were useless. Because you tried to fight it directly, Nari explained. We used its nature against it. Sometimes the most effective. Solution isn't about having more power. It's about using your enemy's power against them. The great hall of the Galactic Council glowed with soft light. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds filled the space. They came from planets with names humans could barely pronounce, their bodies shaped by evolution on worlds with different gravity, atmospheres, and stars. Some floated in bubbles of special gas. Others moved on many legs or no legs at all. Some were tiny, no bigger than a human hand. Others towered 3 times the height of a person. In the center of it all stood Pinot Park, feeling very small and very human in his formal military uniform. Captain Nari Kim stood beside him, along with General Junho Lee and Dr. Hyun. They represented Earth at this historic gathering. Never before has a quarantined species been granted full membership to the Council, Elder Kwan announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Today we not only end the quarantine of Earth, but welcome humans as equals among the stars. A murmur ran through the crowd. Minho could sense the mix of emotions, respect, curiosity, and yes, fear. The story of how 7 human ships had destroyed. The Void Devourer had spread quickly through the galaxy. The species that had terrified the Council for centuries had now saved them all. Elder Ju stepped forward, her crystalline form catching the light. Let the treaty be signed. A pedestal rose from the floor, holding a tablet made of some strange material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. Minho stepped forward, as did the 7 elders of the Council. This treaty, Elder Ju explained, officially ends Earth's quarantine. It grants humans the right to travel the stars, to establish colonies, to trade and share knowledge with all Council races. It also assigns Earth a permanent seat on the Council itself. Minho placed his hand on the tablet. It felt warm, almost alive. His fingerprints glowed briefly, then sank into the material. The treaty is sealed, Elder Kwan announced. Let it be recorded that on this day, humanity joins the galactic community. The crowd erupted in a strange mix of sounds, the equivalent of applause from hundreds of different species. Some flashed colors, others released scents, some vibrated the air around them. As the formal ceremony ended, beings from many worlds approached the human delegation. Some offered thanks, others asked questions about Earth. Many simply wanted to see these strange creatures that had succeeded where the Council had failed. Hours later, as the great hall emptied, Minho found himself on a balcony overlooking the Council city. The view took his breath away. Towers of crystal and light stretched to the sky, while ships of impossible designs moved between them. 3 moons hung in the purple sky, and stars he had never seen from Earth glittered above. Beautiful, isn't it? Elder Kwan's voice came from behind him. Minho turned. It's beyond anything I imagined. You will see much more, Elder Kwan said, moving to stand beside him. Your people now have access to over 12,000 inhabited worlds, technology beyond your current understanding, knowledge gathered over millions of years. Minho nodded slowly. It will change Earth forever. Yes, Elder Kwan agreed. Some of your people will embrace this new reality. Others will fear it. Change is never easy. Elder Ju joined them, her crystalline form glittering in the light of the moons. But humans adapt quickly. It is one of your greatest strengths. You understand why we feared you now? Elder Quan asked quietly. Minho considered. Because we solve problems in ways you never considered. No, Elder Ju said. Because in 3 of your months you accomplished what we could not in 3 centuries. Because when faced with a god-killer, you did not cower. You analyzed its weaknesses and exploited them methodically. Is that not what any species would do? Minho asked, genuinely curious. The elders exchanged knowing glances. No, Elder Ju said simply. That is precisely why you terrify the gods. She gestured toward the city below them. The beings you see here have evolved over millions of years. They developed technology slowly, carefully. They expanded to the stars with caution and deliberation. But humans, Elder Quan continued, in the cosmic blink of an eye, you went from simple tools to nuclear power, from primitive boats to spacecraft. Your minds make connections that ours do not. You call it creativity, Elder Ju added. To us it looks like a kind of beautiful madness. Minho smiled slightly. So we're the crazy ones? Perhaps, Elder Quan admitted, but the galaxy needs your particular madness now. There are threats out there that even the Council cannot predict or understand. The Void Devourer was just one. Of many. Elder Ju's form pulsed with colored light. For too long we have been stagnant. Safe, yes, but unchanging. Your people bring something new to the galaxy. The ability to see beyond the established way of doing things. A dangerous gift, Elder Quan noted, but a necessary one, Elder Ju countered. Minho looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home now standing at the edge of a new era. Humanity would no longer be confined to one small planet. They would spread to the stars, bringing with them their strange way of thinking, their creativity, their stubbornness. What happens now? He asked. Now, Elder Ju said, the real work begins. There is much your people must learn about the galaxy, and much that we must learn from you. Elder Quan nodded. The beings that terrify the gods have earned their place among the stars. What you do with that place is now up to you. As Minho watched the alien ships moving through the night sky, he felt both the weight and the wonder of that responsibility. Humanity had been feared, then needed, then accepted. Now they would help shape the future of the galaxy. The species that terrified the gods had come home to the stars.